What is going on, movie meals? Movie meals. I apologize for the horribly non-showered hat hair that I have sporting right now. Um, before we get into what was that Oscars, let's thank the movie meal patrons Steve, Kimberly, and Karen. Thank you guys for supporting the show. Go get some movie meals merch. I got the same shirt I had when we filmed this morning on it yesterday. Changed, but anyway, let's get to the Oscars.
Yes, let's.
Do you want to go first? I'm going to be a lot. So you want to go first?
I know exactly what you want to talk about. For me, I guess there wasn't too much of a surprise that I saw throughout. I guess I'm trying to look through my notes here on like what could have been a big surprise for me. I guess adapted screenplay actually. I thought for sure it might either be Nomadland. I was kind of hoping that One Night Miami would take the win, but it turned out to be The Father that won for best adapted screenplay. I think that was probably my second biggest surprise of the night, but this makes me want to see The Father even more so. It's one of the few of these that I haven't been able to check out. And then a pleasant surprise for me was actually in the best original screenplay category with Emerald Fennell winning that award for Promising Young Woman, which I think was all the more deserving. I thought for sure the Academy would give that to Sorkin. I just figured that everyone just loved him so much and they really enjoyed his movie. But that was a really great surprise for me to be able to see that win. And also a personal favorite movie of mine, Sound of Metal, winning both best film editing and best sound. That was great for me. I assumed I was pretty confident about it winning best sound, but film editing really came as a surprise for me. I thought it would go to Nomadland, and I thought for sure The Father might be able to sneak in and get a win there. But I was really happy to see Sound of Metal be able to snag that award as well. Yeah, and everything else wasn't all that surprising to me, except for the thing that I think Alex really wants to talk about. So, Alex, how about you take this one?
Shout out to Glenn Close, who twerked at the Oscars this year.
That was amazing.
And was who's that comedian? Lil Rel. He was funny. I liked that bit, guessing the songs. I thought that was great. I agree with some of the surprises Kyle said. For the most part, this Oscars was pretty much predictable. Yeah, Sound of Metal winning for film editing was a surprise, but a welcome one to be sure. That's a Star Wars quote. Fight for You winning for Judas and the Black Messiah as well. I really wanted One Night in Miami. Even when they showed the clips, I was really loving that, but made sense. Mank for cinematography makes sense to me, even though it wouldn't have been my pick, because you do have to, out of all of those movies, you have a harder job with that look than you do for the others. Colette winning seemed like a shock, even though I hadn't watched any of this documentary short subject films, just because of a lot of the research I did. It just didn't seem to even be a contender.
Yeah.
But adapted screenplay going to The Father was a bit of a shock. I would have thought it would have been Nomadland. Shout out to Chloe's Zhao. I hope I'm saying that right. Her speech was fantastic. She's the first or the second woman in history to win the Oscar for Best Director, as well as the first ever person of color, I believe person of color to win the Oscar. I believe I'm correct on that. Either that or she's the first female person of color as well, for sure. But shout out to her. She was fantastic. I had a bunch of notes here. Let me just go through this. Emerald Fennell winning early was great. She gave a great speech. I liked Regina King's kind of opening until it ended up becoming the whole show, which I kind of liked. I mean, I liked talking about the history these people had with film. Did you look up my thing? That's what you were doing.
I did, but then there was an ad that got in the way. Hold on a sec here. Let me move that, but you can keep talking.
I really loved Bong Joon-ho having the directors for Best Director. He got a quote from everybody saying what they would, how they would describe what directing a movie is in 20 seconds to somebody who doesn't know. And I loved all the answers. I loved the way that was handled. I thought that was the best part up until that point. The people who won for live action short, whose director, the names are escaping me, but a very short but very powerful speech about police brutality, talking about how police kill 3 people every day. It was powerful. Yeah. Anything else before I get into my absolute explosion here?
Chloe Zhao is the first woman of color and the first woman of Asian descent
So
to
it was
win
first
Best
woman of color.
Director.
I guess that makes
Yeah.
sense. Bong Joon-ho and was last year, so I'm just an idiot. Guillermo del Toro, I'm just an idiot. That's because I'm fogged up, because this was by far the worst Oscars in a long, long time. It's the worst since I've been watching. They need a host. They need to have better producers. They need to fire whoever the idiot is who, from the second the In Memoriam hit to the end of the show, it was awful. The In Memoriam, you got 3, not even 3. You may have got a second and a half. I mean, there were times I couldn't read the names and look at the picture. Like if I looked at who it was and then tried to read the name, it was on to the next person. It was lightning quick for the In Memoriam. That is not the time to go slow, is not the In Memoriam. That is something that is special and important. I'm seeing people being left off of the In Memoriam on Twitter, Oscar nominated people who have been left off of this year's In Memoriam on Twitter, which is mind boggling to me. It was awful. The only time they slowed down was at the very end, passing up big names in Hollywood for Chadwick Boseman and for Sean Connery, and rightfully so. They should have time for us to really take in those people who we have lost. But the fact that they blew over every other person in Hollywood who passed away, who mattered, who were Oscar winners, Oscar nominated, who created incredible content, is absurd. It was awful. It was disgusting to me. I hated it. I hated it. The Oscars needs a host. This show was boring. It was not fun. There was a few times some Regina King, because she is so flip-flap and talented, could pull out a couple of jokes off the cuff. But even last year when they didn't have a host, they had a writer's room write jokes. They had the people come up with ideas and jokes to make it funny, and nobody was freaking funny. The best speech maybe of the night was the funniest, and it was from Yoon Jong-un, who was hysterical because she's just a funny person. And you could tell it was her personality. She walked up to stage and she's standing there and she's like, Brad Pitt, I can't believe I'm meeting Brad Pitt. Like it was fantastic, but they need a host. They need a host to make it fun and entertaining. And then the idiotic decision by the producers to do Best Picture as the third to last award of the night, in front of Best Actor and Best Actress, is an absolute idiotic move. I understand it was a gamble because they don't know who won. Only the accountants know who won, and they are paid to not tell anybody. That's their job. They would not be getting big money deals like the Oscars and other big events if they weren't doing their job effectively. It was a gamble by the producers, and it failed. I completely respect the move. I think I get it. I get it. Ending on Chadwick Boseman after the year we've had he won Best Actor, would have been a powerful moment. His family could have been up there, assuming that they were there. I had no idea. There was no mention of them because there's no host to guide the show. I get that it could have worked. It could have been a powerful moment. It really did not pay off. You had Anthony Hopkins win, who wasn't even there and wasn't even there on Skype. He wasn't even there on Skype. It was Joaquin Phoenix saying the Academy accepts the award on his behalf. End of show. And I turned it off and went to Questlove, and he quickly said something about an after show party talk on, I don't know, Kimmel or something. Horrible, horrible decision. And I want this to be very, very clear. because I'm not trying to take anything away from how much I absolutely love Chadwick Boseman and I absolutely love the movies he has given us. I mean, if you were just watching us the other day on I can't remember which video, but I'm talking about how great that man is in Draft Day. He was an absolute talent. He was gone too soon and it is a travesty. And I understand them attempting to gamble. They've really gambled and it failed. But the Oscars are about celebrating movies. And I get people like to whine and they like to complain that the Oscars pat themselves on their back, but every single field in the world does something like this. I go to teacher conferences. There are teacher awards. People win best of the year. You go to a giant hotel room and it's paid for and you go and you celebrate yourself. I'm sorry the Oscars are on TV and they make more money, but this is their night to celebrate themselves. And I love it because I'm such a fan of film and television. I mean, this isn't for TV, but I'm such a fan of film and it has inspired me so much since I was a child that I like to celebrate with them. I like the Oscars. I like that it's 3 hours long. I get they can tighten it up. There are ways to tighten it up and still have a host. But this show was just so bland, so unfunny. Honestly, it wasn't even that heartfelt. There were heartfelt moments, but it wasn't that great. And the Oscars should end with the best movie of the year because we're celebrating movies. We're not celebrating anything else but movies and the people in those movies. I get they gambled for one person in those movies, but it took away from not only Anthony Hopkins, who's winning an award he has not won in a long time, but it took away from the show's narrative. The show went from this could have ended on a great note. Even if Chadwick doesn't win and this is the penultimate award, fine. People are going to just sit back and be sad for him, happy for Anthony. And then we go to Best Picture and we end on a good note. We end on a great speech by Frances McDormand, who gave an incredibly fast speech after she won the next award because she gave her award, her real big speech in Best Picture. She howled like a wolf. It was crazy. It's never happened before. I've never seen anybody howl like a wolf at the Oscars. But this was by far one of the worst Oscars ever. Bryan Cranston said it'll be back to normal in his speech this year, that next year it'll be back to normal. Thank God that it will be. If they don't have a host, they better at least get a writer's room to actually make it funny this time and to make it heartfelt. Get people in there to actually make it heartfelt. Think about what they're going to say. I can't even. This was one of the worst Oscars I have seen in a long time. Go ahead and you talk. I don't know what happened. I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, where'd you go there? There we go. Oh, you're gone again. Yeah, when I was kind of scratching my head. I mean, in the middle of the show, when all of a sudden they're like on to Best Director, and I'm like, that's usually one of the last things, right? And I mean, great for Chloe Zhao. Like that doesn't take anything away. But at the same time, I was like, why are they doing it in the middle? And then when they're like, all right, Best Picture is gonna be coming up next, and then Best Actress and Best Actor, and I'm like, that's a really interesting choice. And I would have understood if they decide to figure out like who was going to win Best Actor beforehand, and then if it was Chadwick, then they would make him last. I would kind of be forgiven based of that, but the fact that they still held to the rules to make sure like no one knew but the accountants who won Best Actor, you're absolutely right. Like it did not work at all. And no offense to Anthony Hopkins at all. He is a terrific actor, and same with Chadwick Boseman, but that was just a gamble that I thought that they knew what they were doing, but clearly they gambled and it did not work out at all. That was just bonkers to me. Like that is something that they are going to learn about, and honestly they're probably not going to be forgotten about for quite a while. I'm sure it's going to be like the similar situation. Well, not
crap.
Exactly. It's going to be almost in the similar vein as the La La Land Moonlight debacle. It's probably going to be just as remembered as that. So that was very interesting choices to be made on how to go about the show.
So I'm looking at Twitter. I'm going to be honest. It was by far the worst Oscar I have seen in ever. No, ever. It was the worst Oscar I have seen ever. I've been watching probably since I was like 15. So it's a good 11 years I've watched the last Oscars, maybe a little even earlier than that, because I used to kind of low key watch them with my mom.
Mhm.
I'm happy for all the movies that won. I'm very happy for the actors. People are online, it looked like, are really upset that Chadwick didn't win and Anthony did. And there's arguments that Anthony had a better performance. I didn't watch Father. I clearly need to, since it won so many awards that people weren't expecting. But
Surprisingly, yeah.
look, Anthony Hopkins is an absolute grade A talent. He deserved to be there, and he probably deserves a win. It was a weak year. There isn't any outstanding movie. I could put Moonlight in any of these I could put Moonlight in this year, and Moonlight would probably sweep almost every single category because it's that good. You know what I mean? Like La La Land won like 8 of its 11 Oscars or something like that, and it would sweep at this year's Academy Awards. It was a weak year, but the show was horrible. And guess what? It was still 3 hours long. It was still 3 hours and 20 minutes. So this whole narrative, they got rid of singing the songs. They sped up the in memoriam. They got no host. They just did this. They changed this, and it was still long. So there's no more complaining to me that the host drags it out, this drags it out, because they've changed everything and it's still 3.5 hours. I mean, I'd watched 4.5 hours of it. I'd watch 5 hours of it because I love the Oscars. And I know I'm the only one on my own little island who loves them this much. But I do. And I can't believe that it ended this way. And when the Moonlight debacle happened, it was like a crazy PR stunt. Is what it felt like. It was like, what on earth just happened? Why did it happen? But the right movie won for most what people believed. Like the feeling wasn't that this was a trash show. The feeling was what happened. This is a trash show. And the Oscars, that's the worst thing you can do. It's one thing to have it leave and people are like, what a disappointing year. It wasn't the best. They're losing ratings. They got to try something else. But this is legitimately bad. This is bad production. This is bad directing. I don't know who directed this Oscars, but they need to talk to those producers and figure out what the real problem was here and why they decided to do that. I would love to be a fly on the wall in these discussions because I can't believe it. Somebody in that room had to have said, Chadwick Boseman is most likely going to win. We're going to make him last. We're going to end on this big note that the Oscars are no longer racist because that was the big ordeal 5 years ago. And that we're going to end on this. We're going to be a part of this social justice movement. And then guess what? You don't know who's going to win. The accountants do. You're not an accountant. You're a producer. You need to do what's best for your show. And I get you gambled, but it was a bad gamble. And there had to have been somebody in that room who told them, no, don't do this. I'm just staring at my picture. I'm not looking at the camera much. I'm just staring at my ballot because I'm baffled. But I mean, I won the betting, so you owe me money.
At least you got that.
Yeah, I won the crappiest year yet.
Of course, and as soon as I lost out on the screenplays, I was like, I got a bad feeling about this. I don't think I did a good job.
I mean, how many did you get right? What was your final tally? I had 16.
Oh, I haven't been able to count yet. Let me check real quick. This will be some good entertainment, right? Watching me try to count. Wait, no. 5. Hope everyone's enjoying this. 15. 15. Yeah.
You lost by 1.
Weird. I thought it was by more. All right.
Well, that's because everyone you missed, so the only one that you missed that I got correct was adapted screenplay because we both got cinematography wrong. We both got documentary short wrong. We both got editing wrong. We both got a song wrong. So that just makes sense. And we both got actor wrong. I picked Viola Davis, though, we would have tied. You convinced me to do Frances McDormand, and I picked Viola Davis, which I was leaning towards. We would have tied.
It would be my own doing that gets you to win. It really would.
I mean, Julie won like 3 years straight or something and didn't compete this year. Thank goodness. So
Yeah, she
I
would
could
have.
get a
Our
sneak a
friend Julie would have
championship in
killed
there.
us. That's for sure.
Yeah, this year it was like all the great quarterbacks decided to retire except for like one average, pretty decent guy, and that was me. And he just got enough around him to win a year before everybody comes back next year.
The
Oh,
quarterbacks were dopes and somehow still get a job. That's us right now.
I liked the inclusivity of this year.
Yeah.
But I can't believe they ended that way. And again, it is not taking away from Chadwick Boseman. It would have been a special moment had they won and family come up and give a really good speech. But I think
Mhm.
back, but you don't know who's going to win. If they had done that with Heath Ledger, it would have ended on an interesting note, but it's still just, it's just not, it was not a smart gamble. I don't, I
It's like
don't, I don't like it had to be the top dog. There's no way a panel of producers all sit there and agree that that's a great idea when you don't know who's going to win. This is not a runaway year. Chadwick Boseman was never the lock. Like even you and I were like, man, it's possible that like I think Steven Yen actually has a better chance people are relay. Like even we were talking about that. Like Anthony Hopkins, we keep hearing this about him and whatnot. Even you were talking about Riz Ahmed. He was never the clear cut front runner other than by fans who just wanted to see him win because he passed away. This wouldn't, if he was alive today, I don't even know what I'm just out of it. What are you gonna say?
I mean, again, like that decision would make sense if they had the accounts be like, hey, we're going to bend the rules. Let us know who wins. If it's Chadwick, then we're going to make it that category last. And that's what I assumed that they decided to do. But the fact that that wasn't the case and it just went south as it did, yeah, I have a feeling that there's going to be quite a few shakeups when it comes to producers, and maybe even some heads of the Oscars might actually lose jobs over this. It wouldn't shock me. The Oscars might change a lot in the coming years because of this. I don't know. It's wild. Al, I think your mic's out. Yeah, I can't hear you. Try it now.
That better?
Yeah, it is. I don't know what
Yeah, at
happened.
least
I
the
just suddenly
Oscars,
can
I don't
hear
know where
you.
I cut out, but at least the Oscars got rid of singing 5 songs throughout the movie, and at least or without the show, and at least they didn't do the best picture thing where they put like they do 2 nominees here, and then they do 2 over here, and then they do 1 down here, and then they do 1 up here, and then they kind of quickly talk about them again. Just show me the clips. I'm in it for the clips. I don't even care about who's usually presenting them. I just want to see the clips of the movies where they pick the best moments to show.
Yeah.
At least they did a few things right. They did a lot wrong. Even my mother, as incredible and sweet as she is, loves watching the Oscars. Only family member who really watched it this year, and usually there's 4 of us watching it, texted me maybe 45 minutes in and said, "This is the most boring Oscars I've ever watched." And I was like, really? Even my mom was thinking that. And I was like, really? And I said, what do you not like? And they're like, they're not showing people off. There's no host. There's no entertainment. Like, it's just like, there's only so much. It was just a snooze fest. It was a snooze fest. There needed to be some entertainment. Honestly, probably a producer ran in at the last second and was like, hey, let's do a song guessing game thing right now because we have no way to pump this crowd up, the small crowd in the hotel they were in downtown LA. Um, although
I thought the hotel looked nice.
I mean,
I don't
of
know.
course it looked nice. Daniel
Yeah,
Kaluuya though, his speech was insane.
it
His
was it
was
was something.
cuckoo for
It
cocoa
was
nuts.
something.
I loved it. I was all for it. I mean, at first it was like, all right. And then it was like, okay. And then it was like, yeah. And then it went from what? Like we just went on this range, man. It was nuts. They did get food at this
Eh.
one though. So good for them getting to eat. Um, but I just don't know. This year sucked. 2020 and 2021 just sucked.
I'm sorry, buddy. At least we'll get more movies and maybe it'll be better next year.
That better be a gosh darn good show, and you better watch it. And to sit through this alone, lazy.
Yeah, I got the most out of it out of the Twitter stream.
You didn't. Anything else for this episode? That's the Oscars. There's nothing really too nuts outside of the stupidity of the Oscars.
Yeah. Besides all that wild stuff at the end, no, that's all I got. Good movies this year, surprisingly, but it was a bit of a weak year. Hopefully, things will pick up when it comes to movies. Yeah.
Did love
maybe
the Tyler
2016
Perry stuff though. Loved the Tyler Perry stuff. Loved his honors he got. Loved some of the humanitarian things they did. Some of the commercials were actually pretty good that they were doing. They were advertising a lot of big causes. I really liked that. The In the Heights trailer was solid, and the West Side Story trailer I thought was just underwhelming. You had no clue what that movie would be if it wasn't for them blatantly saying it. You would have no clue. You'd be like, is this In the Heights at a different angle? You'd have no freaking clue. There was barely any music. It could have been better, Steven. You could have cut together a better trailer. And you know how much I love Steven. He could have cut together a better trailer. It was a teaser. It was a 1 minute and 30 seconds of just nothing. But then again, so was the whole dang Oscars this year. But again, shout out to the winners because they did earn it. Congratulations. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks to the Movie Meal patrons. Go get some merch. I'm going to edit this and go to bed. Yeah. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and thanks for watching, Mom.
See you guys.